and welcome. I'm Becky with Malvern Books, and we're happy to be with you this afternoon for a celebration of the release of Boyd Taylor's new book, The Pronghorn Conspiracy. Boyd is a graduate of the University of Texas and the UT Law School. He is the author of 4 other novels, Hero, The Antelope Play, The Monkey House, and Necessity, and he lives in Austin, Texas with his wife. Boyd?
Thank you, Becky. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here today, and I want to thank Malvern Books for hosting this event. And I want to remind all of you Austinites to support Malvern Books. It's a good friend to Austin writers, and it's a real asset to the community, one of the last remaining neighborhood bookstores. So welcome, everyone. I'm glad you made it through the bad weather. The Zoom meeting is a little different. I'm settled here in front of a fire. I'm drinking a glass of champagne from New Year's. They distributed it to us here at Westminster in time for the New Year's party that was ended at 4 p.m. in the afternoon. So feel free to join me if you'd like to go step out and get something to drink. You're muted, so I can't hear any disagreement or laughter. And I can't hear snoring, so you can sneak out and I'll never know. So thank you for joining me in this launch party, book 5 of my Donnie Ray Cuinn series. This title is The Pronghorn Conspiracy. Much of the action of this book takes place in or near the panhandle hamlet called Antelope City. But the statue just off the highway in front of the old store isn't an antelope at all, it's a pronghorn. And the West Texas mammal, commonly called an antelope or the Texas antelope, is in fact a pronghorn. The pronghorn is a unique North American mammal. Its Latin name is Antilocapra americana, which means American goat antelope. But in fact, the pronghorn is not a member of either the goat or the antelope family, and it has no relationship with the African antelope. It's been in North America for over 1 million years, and the pronghorn is the only surviving member of the Antilocapridae family. And I tell you this because like the antelope, some things in this book are not as they appear. There are 3 main characters in the book, and what happens when their lives intersect is the story of the book. First, of course, is my old friend Donnie Ray Cuinn. When we last saw him, he had just won a notorious murder trial in Austin. He'd received offers to move his practice there, but instead he had returned to Velda in the Texas Panhandle to practice law. And his practice is a good one. He represents the Velda ranching community. He draws their wills, their trusts, handles their estates, draws up prenups and enforces them against fortune hunters. And he negotiates the oil and gas leases on which most of the family wealth is based. And so now we find that he's been convinced to marry. And the lucky woman is Rita. She's a rancher's daughter, divorced from her cheating husband and moved back to Velda. Donnie loves her. He wants to be happy with her. He's amused to find himself a member by marriage of the social set that he had represented, but had always quietly mocked to himself. Cattlemen, he would say to himself. They call themselves cattlemen, but they really are living off of their oil and gas royalties. Yeah, it's a small group, and they welcomed him. But of course, being Donnie, he can't be happy for very long. So his history through this series has been of a man burdened by loss and guilt, especially by the loss of his young Mexican bride, Cecilia, and his guilt at not being with her when she and her family were assassinated by a Mexican drug gang. So in the passage I'm going to read now, Eugene, his best friend, has interrupted Donnie and convinced him to go with him to Amarillo. The President of the United States is coming to Velda for an important speech and is spending the night at the Purvoy Spa and Guest Ranch, which is a luxury destination run by Eugene Purvoy and his wife, Janelle. And Janelle has pulled out all the stops and has sent Eugene to Amarillo to pick up his tuxedo and for some other last minute errands. And as you'll see, she's also given their New Orleans French chef free rein. So after running Eugene's errands, they stop at Hobo's, which is a popular barbecue restaurant on the outskirts of Amarillo. And this is what happens. Donnie looked across the wooden picnic table at Eugene, who was gnawing on the last rib on the platter. Eugene's errands had taken all morning, and they had to wait for a place to sit when they finally got there. You take advantage of Hobo's all-you-can-eat policy, don't you, Eugene? Eugene wiped the greasy sauce from his mouth. Why not? It's the last food I'll get today. The French chef, Eugene wiped his hands and took a folded sheet from his pocket. There's the menu. Exotic game. Donnie read aloud. Scotch quail egg with wild boar sausage, buffalo carpaccio. What is carpaccio, Eugene? He stared at Donnie, then waved at the waitress and pointed at his empty plate. Oh, and then there's oyster sliders, Donnie continued. The city folk will really enjoy those. Hey, this should be great. Squab, pan-seared and placed on top of a wild mushroom hash with roasted asparagus. I always have my squab with mushroom hash and roasted asparagus, don't you, Eugene? The waitress cleared the dishes and placed another plate of ribs between them. Thank you, darling, Eugene said. Those belong over here. Eugene pulled the plate to his side of the table and poked around at the ribs. He selected one and looked at it, put it down, and took up another. The only thing on there that I will eat, Eugene said, gesturing at the menu in Donnie's hand, is the asparagus, and I hate asparagus. You're saying no to the squab? Eugene looked at the rib in his hand. He turned it over, gnawed it clean, and put the bone on the plate. He stared at the two remaining ribs for a minute and then said, well, I'm done. What the hell is a squab anyway? A pigeon, I believe. A pigeon? Jesus Christ, we're paying $10 a piece for pigeons? You know, all that crap comes from an exotic game dealer the chef knows in New Jersey. Somehow I'm not surprised. Donnie unfolded his legs and extricated himself from the wooden bench. I need another glass of tea. He apologized to the man and woman sitting at the other end of the table. He picked up his and Eugene's 24-ounce plastic glasses and made his way across the crowded room to the barrel-shaped iced tea jug. Here, let me get that for you, Mr. Cuinn. Donnie looked at the innocent young face. His first thought was that the bruises were gone. Well, thank you, Sue. Do you work here now? Sue took the glasses, filled them with fresh ice, and put them under the double spouts. I do, Mr. Cuinn. She watched the dark orange tea bubble around the ice. Quite a crowd for a Thursday. Sue looked around the room. They're all here to see the president? Are you going to hear him over at the fairgrounds? You'll probably be up on the stage with the other important people. Donnie laughed. No, I don't think so, Sue. She put a paper napkin around the glasses. Mr. Cuinn, I just want to thank you for what you did for me and Earl Jr. Of course, Sue. It looks like you're getting your life back together. How about Earl Sr.? Is he leaving you alone? She handed him the glasses. He is, Mr. Cuinn. I think you put the fear of God in him. He certainly doesn't want to go back to prison. In fact, he's gone to California and violated his probation, Donnie thought. But no matter, California could have the worthless wife beater. If he comes back, call me. Thank you. It means a lot knowing you're there. Donnie nodded. He walked through the crowd, careful not to spill tea on any of the patrons who were shouting and laughing. Eugene had the bill in his hand and eyed him. Where have you been? You want to go over to the airport and watch Air Force One land? I'll pass. Eugene stood up, put a $20 bill on the table, took a long swallow of the iced tea, and said, yeah, we don't have time, I suppose. Janelle called while you were flirting with that waitress. She said she wanted to know why I wasn't already home. POTUS will be there by 7 o'clock. What did you tell her? Donnie followed Eugene out the double swinging doors to the parking lot. I told her that you made me stop at Hobo's and get ribs. They climbed into Eugene's truck, and Eugene checked the black bag holding his new tuxedo and dress shirt. Did she believe you? Donnie adjusted the seat and leaned back. No, but it was the best excuse I had. Let's get home. Eugene saw an opening and sped through it, past a highway patrolman who jumped out of the way. I surely wish Miss Flotus was going to be here tonight. I'd like to meet her. Well, you'll meet POTUS. That should be enough for an ordinary mortal. Tell me this, when I meet him, do I say, pleased to meet you, Mr. POTUS, or what? Donnie pulled his hat over his eyes. I think Mr. President will do. That's what I was thinking. How you do, Mr. President? Shake hands? Shut up, Eugene, and let me sleep. Meanwhile, the important person Eugene and Janelle are working so hard to receive at the Purvoy Spa and Guest Ranch is still in the Oval Office receiving an important donor. Salmon Rowe, POTUS himself, was a California megachurch preacher and television personality. When the daughter of a local media mogul spotted him on TV, she recognized his magnetism and how he connected with the viewers and decided that Salmon should go into politics. Pinchella, or Pinky as she was known, was instrumental in Rowe's political career, and now he's the president. Here is Rowe in the Oval Office with an important donor. President Salmon Rowe rose from behind the William McKinley desk and shook hands with his visitor, Fred Vinson, the Chief Executive Officer of Transamerica Media, Inc. He motioned for Vincent to sit on one of the pair of teal blue sofas and took a seat across from him. A large leather Bible lay open on the coffee table. Vincent looked around the room. It was his first visit to the Oval Office. He had heard about the decoration, red on white Crusader flag, standing opposite the Stars and Stripes. A painting of Christ on the cross hung on the long wall. El Greco, Rose said. The Getty Museum loaned it to us. Good for them, Vincent said. I'll increase my gift. He smiled. Rose settled his tall frame in the sofa across from his guest and brushed back his carefully combed white hair, which contrasted with his California tan. What brings you here, Vincent? Something about a merger? Vincent leaned forward. Mr. President, Transamerica's acquisition of American National Television is a good deal. Good for the shareholders, good for the public, and good for you. Maybe it would be good for me. I don't know. A&T has opposed me from the beginning. They're not my friends over there. Most Jews aren't. Why do you think that is? Vincent smiled and shook his head. Maybe your Middle East speech at the prayer breakfast? That was just a feeler I put out. What do you think about that, Fred? Vincent shifted a little on the sofa. If you can bring peace to that region, you'll be a shoo-in for the Nobel Prize. Rose smiled. That's what the Pope says. The Pope, His Holiness and I see eye to eye on a lot of things. Vincent frowned. Isn't that a strange alliance, your fundamental Christian supporters and the Pope? Rose shrugged. Politics make strange bedfellows, Vincent ended. Rose said, of course, I'm not getting into bed with a priest. They both laughed. But I can use the Pope's support. American Catholics look up to him. In fact, just between you and me, the First Lady visited him privately on her way to Africa. A private visit. Can we report that? We'll see. Let's get back to American National Television. Will their hatred of me change if you buy them? Just between you and me, I'm running for a second term and I don't like them. I can handle them, but I could get on with the Lord's work a lot faster if they would shut up. I can personally guarantee you that under our management, A&T will give you the respect and support you deserve. All I can ask, all I ever want, respect and support. So what's the holdup? There's a man in the Justice Department, he said. He seems to think the merger will give us a monopoly in Washington and New York markets. Write his name down and I'll take care of it. He stood and extended his hand. His gold cufflinks, shaped like crosses, glistened on his thickly starched French cuffs. They shook hands. Rowe pulled Vincent close by his coat lapels. He leaned down to the shorter man and said, respect and support, especially support. You do understand me, Fred. Vincent looked up at the most powerful man in the world and said softly, I understand, sir. Rowe released his grip on Vincent's coat and dusted off his lapels. Just one other thing. The First Lady writes a little column for the Sunday papers. She'd like a broader audience. Do you think that could be arranged? We'd be delighted, Mr. President. Tell Mrs. Rowe we'll be honored to work with her. Good, good. FLOTUS will be happy, and when FLOTUS is happy, POTUS is happy. Do you understand that, Fred? I certainly do, Mr. President. It's the same with my wife. What's your wife's name, Fred? Mary, Mr. President. Well, maybe you and Mary can come over some night and have dinner in the family quarters with Mrs. Rowe and me. Vincent hesitated just a second. The lobbyist had warned him, pray that you don't get invited to one of Pinky Rowe's dinner parties. The food is all vegan, it's barely cooked, and of course, no wine, and even worse, she'll lecture you the entire time about one of her causes. Vincent stepped back, readjusted his jacket, and said, of course, Mr. President, any time at all, we would be honored. I'm sure you will be, Fred. And Fred, I'll let you know when you can use that Pope thing, exclusive to you. So President Rowe is coming to Texas for a speech at the Evergreen nuclear weapons plant. His defense industry supporters are expecting him to announce the development of a new form of nuclear weapon, the extreme robust nuclear earth penetrator, or the X-bomb. Pinky is urging him to renounce the X-bomb at this speech and pave the way for a Middle East peace conference that she's trying to broker. If the president has decided which he will do, he hasn't told anyone. Meanwhile, the third person in this triangle goes by the name of Joseph. The night before Donnie and Eugene sat down to eat ribs, and President Rowe had his meeting with Vincent, Joseph checked into a motel on the interstate outside Amarillo. Ask about it later. Brooks Ray, the motel clerk, remembered them very well. The 16 men who gathered for a bachelor party in the executive suite on the second floor were very athletic, very fit. They were also quiet and self-spoken, not at all what he had been dreading when he saw the reservation for a bachelor party. This will be a long night, I'd told myself. I had the police phone number ready just in case of trouble. But he went on, they were very well behaved. Oh, some loud music, scraping of chairs, that sort of thing. The next morning they were gone. I never even heard them leave. The $double motel was on the outskirts of Amarillo. Its neon sign always on, rooms always available. Its clientele were truckers and weary travelers who had decided to rest rather than continue on to Tucumcari. But a bachelor party? That was the first one, Brooks said. Starting that afternoon and on into the early evening, the men arrived in twos and threes, some by cab from the airport. A man who called himself Joseph Jones had arrived first in a large van. Joseph had paid in advance for all the rooms using a credit card that later proved untraceable. They wore backpacks or carried small duffels, no luggage. Upstairs in Suite 200, Joseph let them in. Joseph was tall and wiry, his dark hair cut very short, his beard trimmed neatly. He met the arrivals silently, his dark eyes focused behind them, looking down the empty hall. He ushered them in quickly and closed the door behind them. They talked in hushed tones, barely able to hear each other over the Willie Nelson's twang playing on a local country music station. They found places for their gear among the large duffels that Joseph had carried upstairs from the van. Careful, Joseph said. The guns are in that one. Joseph spread a large map of the Evergreen plant across a table. They gathered around him and he pointed at a spot on the map. This is our destination, Gate 99. So Donnie, the president, and Joseph will meet at the Evergreen plant. So I hope I've tweaked your interest enough, and that if you decide to read the Pronghorn Conspiracy, you will enjoy it. I'll also tell you that the 25th Amendment is involved in this book. And so if you want to learn something about the 25th Amendment, it's in there. So I think we have time for some questions. If you have any, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Hey, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Hey, how do we get an autographed copy of the book?
Well, the easiest way to get a copy is from Malvern Books. They have them.
And then get you to autograph it, right?
Yeah, and I will say that Wednesday, for those of you who live at Westminster, there's going to be a mini book fair in the solarium. Ken Ashworth, Max Sherman, Janice Scheffelman, and I are going to be selling and signing books there at 2:00 on Tuesday.
Look forward to it. It sounds fun. It sounds like a good, fun read.
Anybody else?
There is a question in the chat from me, Boyd.
Mm-hmm.
How long have you been working on this, Boyd?
I've been working on this book for about 1.5 years. I did most of it, though. I did a great deal of it during the pandemic. Yeah.
Plenty of time.
Yeah, I had plenty of time, and had some really good help. I had good editors with this book, and so it's taken shape. They always take longer than you think they will, but this one, actually, we finished it in November, but I was advised that it was such a crowded market, we shouldn't rush things and rather bring it out in January, which is what I'm doing.
Hey,
How can we
Boyd,
get a
can I ask
signed
you
copy?
Boyd, can I ask you a question about the, if you had any idea in advance that the 25th Amendment would be coming into play this year?
Sure, Ken. I had that. No, I had no idea. I had to do my own research for the 25th Amendment rather than get it out of the local paper today. So,
Boyd,
yes.
this is a continuation of the stories that you've written. Do some of the same characters appear?
Well, Donnie, of course, and Eugene and Janelle are here. There are a couple of other characters. There was a Secret Service agent in the Antelope play, and he makes an appearance here. But the rest of them are new.
Mm-hmm.
Boyd, I'm really interested in how you decide the names of the characters. I think Donnie Ray is wonderful. That sounds Texan. But how do you do that?
I just let my imagination run wild, and I lived among these people for quite a while. I lived in West Texas quite a while, and a lot of the names are what I feel would be appropriate given where they grew up. So it's, but I have fun naming the characters, and then I get to run them through Google to be sure that nobody has that same name. So.
Boyd?
Yes.
Would it be best to read the earlier books? Does this follow in, or can you read this independently?
Well, my recommendation would be that you read all 5 of them, of course, but it is an independent book. It can be read separately. I think one of the problems in doing a series like this is trying to decide how much of the previous story to try to retell. And that's a difficult question, because you really don't want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to tell enough for the person who hasn't read any of the other books to understand what's going on in the characters, and particularly Donnie and Donnie's life. But you don't want to retell everything. So I think if you've been with Donnie from the beginning, well, then you'll have a little bit easier time with how the demons that he's facing.
Mhm.
Boyd, is it available on Amazon?
It is, yes.
Thanks.
If it's not there today, it'll be there tomorrow, or the 12th is the launch day. I think it's up already. But also, if you want to order books by mail or from out of town, I believe, Becky, that Malvern will mail them to you.
Right. We are able to ship within the United States. We're happy to ship. So you can give us a call at the number that I posted, 512-322-2097, or if you email us at info@malvernbooks.com, we can take care of that for you.
Yeah.
Did I have a question, Boyd? I was wondering about the Evergreen nuclear weapons plant. Is there really such a place, or did you just make that up?
It's real.
Green nuclear.
There is a plant that serves as the model for the Evergreen plant, and the name of it is Pantex, and it's located 17 miles outside of Amarillo, and all of the nuclear weapons that were ever manufactured for the United States arsenal were assembled at Pantex, and all of the nuclear weapons that have been disassembled since SALT were disassembled at Pantex, and all of the plutonium pits that were removed from those weapons are stored at Pantex. So it's I lived in the Panhandle the first time for 10 years, and I drove by that place several times a week, and it never occurred to me that it was a nuclear weapons assembly plant. Nobody talked about it. And in those days, secure things were secure, and there was no. I never heard it gossiped about even. I'm sure people knew, people who had dealings with the plant or worked at the plant. I mean, we had a doctor in Tampa who resigned to go to work on the medical staff at Pantex. So we knew it was a weapons plant, but I had no idea of the magnitude of the operation until much later. So in Antelope Play, there's a question about water contamination, and that arose out of at Evergreen. And that's another, you asked about characters. The Evergreen plant was in that book. So the water contamination has been an issue. There've never been any proof of it. And of course, it overlies the Ogallala aquifer, which is the largest water producing aquifer in the United States. And so there's a lot of concern among activists about whether there's a potential for pollution of the Ogallala. But so far, all the evidence is that such care has been taken that there hasn't the danger of pollution is really, really remote. So that's the first time I really got interested in the Evergreen plant, and my interest has carried me a step farther in this book. Anything else?
So how do we get a signed copy in San Antonio? Buy the book and send it to you with a return?
Oh,
If you buy it from us, then maybe Boyd would be able to swing by the store and sign some copies. That might be a possibility. Boyd, would you consider that?
of course, I'd do that.
And then we could send it to you.
Is that Gary that was asking that question? Or?
Yes, Gary and Gavin.
Yeah, just send me an email and we'll work through that.
Okay.
Now, Boyd, do you have a favorite character? Is it Donnie or is it somebody else?
Eugene is my favorite character. I just like him. He's and I think what I like about him is the same thing that makes him Donnie's best friend. There's just a complete lack of pretense in Eugene, and he has there's no artifice about him at all, and that's really unusual. And I based him on a rancher friend in Tampa who had many of those same characteristics. So I'd say and the dialogue I most enjoy writing is the dialogue between Eugene and Donnie, because it just takes on a life of its own. It's fun.
Eugene's the one that was eating all the ribs, right?
That's right. Okay. Well, listen, I want to thank you all very much for being here today. And again, thank Becky and Joe at Malvern. And a reminder for you Westminster residents, the mini book fair will be Tuesday afternoon, 2 to 4 in the solarium. So
Congratulations, Boyd.
thank you, Ken. And Becky, I'll turn it back over to you.
Well, thank you so much, Boyd. That was really a pleasure to hear from reading on that and to hear the further adventures of Donnie going on through this. And I think it's great that you're able to carry this character through 5 books. I think that must be a real challenge, and to make it interesting every time like you do, and to make a whole new, just a whole new thing for him to have to conquer and get through. That's really wonderful that you're able to carry that through. And I think it's great. We're always thrilled to have you with us. And we hope that the next time you have your next book, that we're able to do this in person at Malvern Books, because we'd love to have you back again. Thank you all so much for coming. It is nice. It's great to have Zoom where we can have people from all over to join. And we appreciate that you've been able to. You get a chance to buy the book from us, we'd really appreciate it. As I mentioned, well, you can always look us up at malvernbooks.com and take a look at when we could provide a curbside service for you or mail the book. So